History is filled with strange twists, but every so often we stumble upon coincidences so bizarre, so perfectly timed, that they sound like the plot of a movie. These stories make us question whether fate, destiny, or just sheer luck is at play. Today, we'll explore unbelievable true stories that feel scripted, the strangest coincidences in history. The twin brothers who lived the same life in Finland. Twin brothers seemed destined to follow the same path. Born just 2 hours apart, they grew up together, worked in the same town, and even rode bicycles as their main form of transportation. In 2002, tragedy struck. One of the brothers was hit by a truck while cycling on a rural road. Just 2 hours later, his twin, riding on the very same road, was killed in almost the exact same way. For family and friends, it felt like their lives had been perfectly mirrored from start to finish. The Lincoln-Kennedy connection. Few historical parallels are as famous or as eerie as the similarities between Presidents Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, Kennedy in 1946. Lincoln became president in 1860, Kennedy in 1960. Both were assassinated on a Friday, shot in the head, while seated next to their wives. Both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson. Some of these details have been exaggerated over the years, but even the verified ones paint an unsettling picture of history repeating itself. The two Miss Unsinkables. If you thought surviving the Titanic was lucky, imagine doing it twice. In 1912, stewardess Violet Jessop escaped the sinking Titanic, surviving one of history's most famous disasters. 4 years later, she was serving aboard the Britannic when it too sank. Once again, she survived. But here's the incredible part. She had also been on the Olympic, the Titanic's sister ship, when it collided with another vessel. 3 ships, 3 disasters, 1 survivor. Jessop earned the nickname Miss Unsinkable. The falling baby. Coincidence. In Detroit during the 1930s, a man named Joseph Figlock was walking down the street when suddenly a baby fell from a window above. Figlock caught the child, saving its life. Incredibly, about a year later, almost the exact same thing happened again. A different baby fell from another window, right onto Figlock. Both children survived without injury. The odds of one person saving 2 falling babies in nearly identical circumstances are almost impossible to comprehend. The Poe coincidence author Edgar Allan Poe was famous for his dark and mysterious tales, but one of his stories seemed to predict a real-life tragedy. In 1838, Poe published the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, in which shipwreck survivors, desperate for food, decide to cannibalize a cabin boy named Richard Parker. Decades later, in 1884, a real ship called the Mignonette sank. The starving survivors killed and ate the youngest crew member. His real name? Richard Parker. It's as if Poe's imagination had somehow foreshadowed reality. The brothers on the same taxi. In Bermuda in 1975, a man riding a moped was struck and killed by a taxi. A year later, his brother was also riding a moped on the same street when he too was hit and killed by a taxi. Here's where it gets truly unbelievable. It was the exact same taxi, driven by the same driver, and carrying the same passenger. It sounds like the setup for a supernatural story, but it's a verified historical report. The Civil War coincidence. The American Civil War began with tragedy in 1861, when the first Union soldier killed was Elmer Ellsworth in Virginia. 4 years later, as the war ended, the last soldier killed in battle was John Jefferson Williams, also in Virginia. Even stranger? Both men came from the same county in New York, linking the first and last deaths of a brutal war back to the same small piece of America. The World War I. Coincidence. During World War I, the British ship SS Titanic II, not to be confused with the famous liner, was sunk by a German U-boat in 1914. One of the German sailors involved was named Adolf Hitler. While historians debate the exact details, there are verified accounts of Hitler narrowly escaping death multiple times during the war. Each coincidence of his survival shaped the course of the 20th century in ways that still haunt us today. the Hoover Dam connection. When the Hoover Dam was under construction in the 1930s, the first man to die working on it was a surveyor named J.G. Tierney, who drowned while on the job. Exactly 13 years later, on the very same day, December 20th, his son, Patrick Tierney, also died while working on the dam. The first and last deaths during the construction of the Hoover Dam came from the same family on the same date. Conclusion. From twin brothers sharing mirrored fates, to novels predicting real disasters, to families connected by eerie patterns of tragedy, history is full of coincidences that seem scripted. We can call it chance, we can call it fate, but whatever it is, these stories remind us that reality can be far stranger than fiction.